Hi, I'm Liron Cohen.
And I'm Mimi Torchin.
And you're listening to Lady Parts TV, the podcast.
Whee!
Hello, everybody, and Merry Christmas. And happy anything you celebrate.
Absolutely.
By the time you hear this, Christmas will
The
be all
day
gone.
after.
That's it. And then,
Yes.
as Mimi pointed out today, when you say, so is Christmas,
When someone says something's coming and you go, so's Christmas,
then it
it'll
will
be the
really be a
longest
long time.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have minute stats. We only tallied 6 primetime shows, out of which 2 were written or co-written by women, 33%, and directed 1, 17%. But these are different times.
These are difficult times.
Yes, difficult times. Now, a quick word about Wonder Woman, in case you're one of the handful of people who have not watched it yet.
You wrote Wonder Woman here.
I have a lot of typos in my notes today. It's Christmas, obviously too much eggnog.
Exactly.
Which I do not drink. Anyway, if you've not watched Wonder Woman yet, watch it. We just watched it last night. We loved it. And we're going to have, at the end of this podcast, we're going to have a full discussion of it, but it will be full of spoilers because we want to be able to talk about it properly, and there's too much that we don't want to ruin for you. We just want to caution you for 2 things. First, do not read the Manohla Dargis New York Times review.
Do not read the Manohla Dargis
It
review.
completely went over her head. It just completely, she missed the whole
Grinch
point.
Too. She was pretty grinchy about it.
I had a feeling she would be. Anyway, so that's that about the review. Do not read it. Trust us. Well, we hope anyway.
No,
let us know.
Read it after.
Right.
Don't
let it color your
we
experience.
Read reviews afterwards.
Right. Except for ours. You should always listen to us first.
Of course.
And the second thing is when you finish the movie, which is quite a long movie, it's 2.5 hours, at the end of it, stay for the few minutes of credits because there is a hidden gem.
A lovely little Easter egg.
It's so great. Just stick with it until you get to it because you do not want to miss it. Okay? It made me scream.
Okay.
So Wonder Woman, we loved it. Watch it and then come back and listen to the end of the podcast where we talk about it after the fact, okay? So that's Wonder Woman 1984. And now we have a bunch of movies to review, but before we do, we have a quick word about a new show on Acorn TV.
Yes, which is one of our favorite streaming services.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And it's called A Suitable Boy. And it's 6 episodes, premiered on December 7th, so it's all there.
Almost. It ends sometime next week or something.
Right, exactly. Most of it is there.
Yeah.
Directed by Oscar-nominated Mira Nair, who is a wonderful director. And it's a screen adaptation of a worldwide bestseller called A Suitable Boy by Vikram Seth. It's an all-Indian cast.
Yes, it's actually the first BBC
drama to have a complete Indian cast.
Lead cast, yeah.
Lead cast, yes. I'm sure that, yeah.
Yeah.
And it takes place in 1950s India, and there's a lot going on,
both politically
it's actually the main character is a spirited university student named Lata Mehra, played by Tanya Maniktala, and I like her very much. And she's coming of age now. She's going to university. The times they are changing, there's all of these clashes, a lot, arranged marriages. No, I don't want an arranged marriage, all of that stuff that goes on. And, of course, India is now an independent nation post-partition, and it's about to go to the polls for its first democratic election. So there's a lot going on.
Both on the personal level
personal
and on
and political.
societal.
And I'm sure that they will mix because...
you enjoyed it. I personally, I found that the acting was kind of stiff, and I couldn't stick with it. But you actually watched all the way,
I'm eager to see. I'm eager to watch all of them. Mm-hmm. I like things about India very, very much.
I do too. I just specifically this didn't really grab me.
Yeah,
A Suitable Boy on Acorn TV. Give it a try.
Yes.
Okay, now we have 2 movies. Very, very different reviews.
Very.
Okay, let's start with the ridiculous to get to the more sublime. Not really sublime even, but bitter.
And the mysterious as to, well, why?
Why?
Why did...
So the first movie is Fatale. It's intentionally a reference to Fatal Attraction. It's only been released in the theater, which I find to be so presumptuous and arrogant that out of all the movies, I mean, Wonder Woman, what's his name, the Tenet, all the big movies were released.
Are streaming.
And this ridiculous movie.
Terrible movie, basically.
Is thinking that you should both spend the money and risk your lives to see it. So
and,
we are here to tell you, do not do either.
The most mysterious part of this thriller is what was Hilary Swank thinking?
Right. So it was directed by Dion Taylor, written by David Lowery. And it's starring, really, it's kind of a pas de deux between Hilary Swank and Michael Ealy. There are a few supportive actors, but they're really the crux of it. Much like in Fatal Attraction, it was Michael Douglas and Glenn Close. And this is... yes. I'm happy to report no animals were harmed in the making of Fatale, which is probably the only positive things you can say about it.
Through.
It kind of changes persona as it goes. It starts off as kind of feeling kind of like an exploitation movie, kind of as if it was plucked out of the 80s.
Yeah, they go to Vegas, and that's where he meets her. And,
right, so Michael Ealy is a married man, very successful, wealthy married man. He goes to Vegas. He has a one-night stand with Hilary Swank.
Who's a policeman.
Who's a detective.
Detective, right.
And...
decorated detective.
Right, and...
therein hangs the tale.
Yes, we'll leave it at that. He gets entangled in her latest investigation, let's just put it that way. But really, it thinks of itself as a thriller, but it's a really bad one. I mean, it was so trashy. It was just really bad.
It wasn't a good movie. That's all.
It was
wasn't
not.
A really. I can really. It takes very little to. Turn me off of a thriller. I love thrillers. I'll take anything you kind of throw at me, any milieu.
Well, and I saw Hilary Swank, and I thought, okay, quality. Different role for her.
Yes, and
could
that's
be
probably
curious.
why she took it.
Well, I think she's at the position where she can take,
Well, she isn't offered. She just was one of the first woman on Mars.
But this was bad. It was just. I mean, we watched the whole thing. And it wasn't too long, which is another thing that I can say in its credit. But it was just kind of like, why?
Why, exactly.
So, sorry, this is one of those warnings. Especially do not
Don't
go to the
theater.
I
mean, if it comes on TV and you like Hilary Swank, it might be a little fun.
Yeah, but...
It's violent.
Yes, it is violent at times. Anyway, it's called Fatale, and this is a thumbs down.
Pretty much a fatality.
Yes, exactly. On the other hand, Antebellum is a new movie that's available to rent on Amazon Prime, and even though it's new, it's not very expensive. I think it's $5.99 or something like that. Written and directed by Gerard Bush and Christopher Renz, and it's starring, first of all, an actress who is becoming a favorite of mine.
Oh, yes, I love her.
Janelle Monáe. Also, Jenna Malone, Eric Lang, Jack Houston, Kiersey Clemens, Gabourey Sidibe, in smaller roles. But Janelle Monáe is really the star of this, and she does a fantastic job.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's really wonderful.
Let us caution you now. Besides our review, do not read any review. Don't even read the synopsis, because they give just too much.
Too much away. And this movie is surprising.
The whole point of the movie, the thing that makes it the thrilling movie that it is the surprise, which we did not see coming, and it's very hard to surprise us. Now, it's not the best dialogue I've ever heard.
No, it's not brilliantly written as far as especially dialogue.
Right, but the story itself is very original.
Very timely in its way, even though it's a Civil War movie.
Yes. It's shot stunningly. The open sequence had us with our jaws to the floor.
Oh, it was a gorgeous, gorgeous tracking shot. A long tracking shot showing you life on the plantation, out in the fields. It was a beautiful, or as one of the reviews said bravura, and it was opening.
Yeah, and no matter what they tell you, we were invested. We,
Completely.
by the end, were cheering and screaming and rooting
And gasping.
Movie,
and I was kind of afraid.
Well, it is in the ilk of Get Out, which, is actually a very cool genre, which is kind of amazing that it's a genre unto itself now. It's not as scary. It's not nearly as scary as...
No, and it's not... I didn't want to watch it. I thought that we were going to be inundated with violence against the slaves, and I just... just like Holocaust movies, I can only take so much. But it wasn't... it really wasn't as bad as I had expected it to be.
Yes, they didn't make it too gruesome. Although, of course, there are many things that will make you scream, not just in reference to the past, but in how things are now.
And it will... I'm not going to say what, but it is reminiscent in some ways of another movie, with a whole different background. But I'll be interested if you
catch what movie that is. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, again, the reviews kind of gave it very bad reactions. I thought the story itself, again, the dialogue was not very good.
No.
The middle part of the movie was not as good as the beginning and the end of it. Mm-hmm. But I thought that the story itself and the meaning and what they were trying to say, and also we got the screener with a whole letter from the director, which I found very moving about what they set out to do and why they thought it was important. I loved it.
Yep, I liked it very much too. I was very glad Liron, sorry to call you Liron, Liron insisted that we watch it. Because usually I'm all about, especially if it's supposed to be kind of scary. But I have a low tolerance for
violence,
for
injustice. Yeah.
So it's great. It's a really worthwhile film.
It's worth your $5.99 or whatever it is on Amazon. Again, it's called Antebellum, especially for a Janelle Monáe fan.
She's
fantastic.
Really wonderful.
Yes. Highly recommend it.
Now, this is a review of a movie that was not at all on my radar.
Ha! No pun intended.
No, I think there was radar involved. I don't know how I could have missed it. It's called The Midnight Sky. It's available on Netflix. It was directed and stars George Clooney, directed by and starring George Clooney, written by Mark L. Smith, and based on the book by Lily Brooks Dalton. It's got a very good cast: Felicity Jones, David Oyelowo, a young girl named Kaolin Springal, who is just divine. This child is so beautiful, and she is so expressive. She hardly speaks.
Excellent actress.
But my God, her face, she's very, very prominent in the film, and she's quite wonderful. She's about 8? 9, right. Kyle Chandler, Tiffany Boone, Damien Bashir, Sophie Rundle, and the tiny little part, Miriam Shore, who we always like very, very much.
It's an excellent cast.
It's a wonderful cast, and it is a wonderful film. It's beautiful and fascinating to look at, even though, what it represents is very terrifying. It's a post-apocalyptic tale. Something has happened. We don't know what. 2049. So you don't have much time.
Probably a combination of a pandemic and a global crisis.
Well, it has to do with air. It has to do with the air becoming unbreathable. And a lonely scientist in the Arctic stays behind when they evacuate the station.
What's the point?
Because they're all just going to try to go somewhere underground, because it's still safe up there, but the bad air is moving quickly. But he has a task. He has something that he is staying behind to do. And what he's staying behind to do is warn a rocket, a spaceship full of astronauts, with I think 5 or 6 astronauts, who are coming back to Earth from a 2-year mission of checking out a planet that he discovered called K23, and to see if it would be habitable for Earth. And he has to take a journey to get to some place where he can communicate across this vast wasteland. And
actually, the first half is all in the snow in the Arctic, and the second half is all in space.
Yeah,
it's pretty.
It's very
cool.
good. We learn about the cast, and they're trying to come home, and of course they have some obstacles, which always happens in space. But
the little girl is a girl he has to.
Yes, she was left behind,
and so he was supposed to be alone
but she
there.
kind of takes care of him too.
Right.
It's a very, very sweet relationship. It's chilling, literally,
and there's
in
a
many
twist
ways. And
that we did not see coming until a second before.
I mean, a couple seconds before we realized something. It's wonderful. I found it mesmerizing. I found it beautiful. I found it heartwarming. I just loved it. There's a very, very interesting, strange, but I found perfect. Liron didn't quite agree with me. Score by Alexander Desplat that added a lot for me. A lot of mood, a lot of atmosphere. Anyway, I just loved it. It's different from what I thought it was going to be, and it was wonderful. Yeah. I highly recommend it. I think George did a great job, both as an actor and a director. And I guess he likes being movies about space, yes. Too,
So this is The Midnight Sky.
The Midnight Sky.
It's on Netflix. Check it out.
I think you'll like it, especially if you like movies of this ilk.
And now we're going to caution you. We're going to talk about Wonder Woman 1984.
And we're going to have spoilers,
right.
spoilers.
So if you have not seen it yet, and if you're not one of those people who like to listen to spoilers, which apparently there are many people.
I know, I just don't know why. Of course, I built a whole career on giving people spoilers.
Exactly, so it's your fault.
No, it's not my fault.
So if you don't want to hear spoilers, stop now, watch Wonder Woman, and come back. Yeah. Yes, have a wonderful, well, by the time you hear this, it will not be Christmas. And if you do want to stay for the discussion, because there were certain things that we thought were obvious, but apparently were not so obviously obvious. So this is Wonder Woman 1984, written and directed. Oh, sorry, that's yours. Go ahead.
Oh, no, it's fine. Written and directed by, of course, Patty Jenkins.
Round of applause.
Her sophomore outing with Wonder Woman, co-written by Patty, Jeff Johns, and Dave Callahan.
Starring, let me hear you say it.
Gal Gadot. Gal Gadot.
Mimi spent the entire 2.5 hours salivating.
I did. I just kept saying, she's so gorgeous. Isn't she gorgeous? Oh my God, she's so gorgeous. Well,
all right, let's move on.
I like my Israeli women. Chris Pine, who I adore.
And if you're wondering, no, you already know how he came back.
Yeah, you'll have seen it. And I think I thought it was pretty valid. It works well with the rest of the film,
exactly.
That's for sure. And it was very important to the plot.
Yeah.
Kristen Wiig in a very surprising role. Yes, it
very
starts
interesting
off,
casting.
Yeah, it starts off not so surprising, but it becomes quite interesting.
I think she did a great job.
I think she must have had a great time. Oh my God. Connie Nielsen, who I adore, never has enough to do in Wonder Woman. She's back as her mother.
And the same thing for Robin Wright.
Who's back as her aunt. And
yeah,
that wonderful opening in the beginning. I wish they would have a real origin story.
And how much did we love that opening sequence? It was fan-fucking-tastic.
It was so much fun. It was so rousing.
Yeah, it was a great way to open
exciting.
And that girl, she was so fabulous.
That little girl, who plays Diana as a little kid. An amazing little kid. As Wonder Child.
Now, we need to talk about this because, again, Manola Dargis, when we read the review, thought that this was just an age-old evildoer, nemesis versus...
And then it was done... it is a little cartoony.
And that why was it in the 80s? But... Hold on a second. Did you miss the whole point of the Trump metaphor?
The Trump metaphor.
Hello.
I said right from the beginning that villain reminded me of Trump, and he was doing all of that positive thinking and bombastic kind of way of you can have what I'll give you what you want, you can get it. He was a grifter,
but he was sucking the life force out of them in return.
Well, that was after
yes, but he was using them. He was using their supposed wishes to get his wishes. Yes. He wasn't granting wishes for fun.
But he started off as a grifter.
He wasn't granting wishes for fun. He was granting wishes in return to taking something away from these people. And it was it had to have been in the 80s.
And everybody became greedy.
It had to have been in the 80s because of a few things. First of all, Manohla Dargis did give us one thing, which is she reminded us of 1984,
the Orwellian vision of the future. Right.
And the 80s was the beginning of Reaganism, that whole idea of economics, that trickle-down economics.
And, Wall Street greed is good.
Exactly.
1987.
More. We want more.
More.
Bigger.
I just couldn't stop thinking of Mary Trump's book Too Much and Never Enough, because actually
it's perfect.
It's perfect, and it's practically stated by the villain towards the end.
Right.
But I do not like the 80s.
Well, it also gave an opportunity for a lot of really cool gags. They made fun of the 80s.
They made fun of it, and as well they should have. The worst clothes ever in the history of the universe.
The fanny pack
gag was really funny with Christopher Pine. I loved that fanny pack gag. And but I was sort of, what's this going to be? Oh, I don't know if I can stand this whole thing in the 80s. But of course, there was Diana Prince looking timeless as ever in her gorgeous costumes. That white dress almost sent me into into paroxysms of joy.
Anyway, the 80s were the time when Donald Trump really,
when he was younger,
and when he was starting to take his power.
Empire.
It was when this type of bombastic tycoons started thriving, started becoming more and more valid in the government's eyes, and becoming more and more supported by the government. And that's when the rise of all of that, the state where we are now.
Yeah, the Cold War was
the 1% versus the 99%.
Right, exactly. And the Cold War was pretty chilling. Now, this actor, Pedro Pascal, who I didn't know very well, but had seen him in a couple of things, I found him repellent throughout. Until the very
suited the
end.
role very well.
But he, right from 2 minutes into meeting him, I said, "Oh, he reminds me of Trump." And of course, as the movie went on, and we kept looking at each other. There was another reference to Trump. There was another reference to Trump.
And then the presidency, and of course the power of the media, how it touches everybody and how it can reach everybody through the media.
And the Norman Vincent Peale power of positive thinking that he was raised on is very, very important.
Right. And also just the idea of, again, the voters, of him promising them that he can make their wishes come true when they're unaware that in fact he's sucking their life force out of them, and that he's taking a lot in return, and they're not, and that their wishes
frenzied,
and that their wishes oftentimes are not actually what's good for them or the planet or the people around them, and the people maybe shouldn't get what they always want.
I kept on thinking of
but if they try sometime, they
proverb,
get what
be
they
careful
need.
what you wish for.
Yes,
and that was very prominent in
absolutely.
This. It was done bombastically.
Yeah, but it's a superhero movie.
Exactly. But it had a lot of layers. It had a lot of things to say.
And if I may say, because I found the movie, and I'm not the kind of person who comes into these movies expecting to like them. In fact, I only watched it because Mimi wanted to watch it.
You watched the first one and liked it.
Because you wanted to.
I'd already seen it. I had to go by myself to watch the first one.
Wonder Woman is the only superhero movie I will ever have any minuscule. By now, I'm like, the third one I will come willingly. No problem. But I'm just saying it's not my type of movie. So to have me really, and 2.5 hours is a long time for me to sit on my ass.
By the way, 2.5 hours is too long. I think
absolutely
she could have easily cut out a lot of that frenzy at the end.
But I still enjoyed it. And actually, what I was going to say about the end, so I found the movie entertaining, exciting, funny, but I also found it moving because at the end, when they are showing what's going on in the world, and the world is basically imploding on itself, I felt I was about to cry, because this is how I feel the world is around us now. And I think
it's a little more subtle, but not much.
Yeah, but
you watch MSNBC every day, not much.
And this is what people like us, people who are on the quote unquote right side of history, who are seeing people's greed and hatefulness and fear
and lack of concern for others.
Yeah, when you see how they're destroying the planet, how they're destroying their fellow humans, whoever they are, citizens or not, it breaks our heart on a daily basis. And I think the only way that we manage to survive and find joy and do this is because we put it into we compartmentalize and we try not to think about it too much, because when we do, it crushes our soul. And so to have it in front of me like that, and I know that it's funny because we see it on the news all the time, but because it was somehow, when it's fiction, when it's part of a story that you're going in thinking, okay, I'm going to enjoy myself, and then all of a sudden it hits you over the head.
And then the mayhem and the and you see, I've always said that civilization is about 3 inches deep.
Oh, I think that's too much.
2 inches deep. All you have to do is take away our electricity for a week or two,
which we've seen,
and
happen.
We
find out
will dissolve
really
into complete chaos, and that's what this movie showed. That how quickly.
Well, and that's what the last 4 years have shown.
Yeah,
I think.
how quickly things can end.
Yeah,
the norm. Just explodes.
Well, because also so much, apparently, we talk about it a lot, Mimi and I, about what makes the difference between people like us and people who don't care about other people, or people who are happy to take away people's rights or be violent against people. I mean, going back to Antebellum, when you see how much joy some people take in hurting cruelty. Other people or thinking other people are inferior to them, and we just try to understand what makes the difference between people like that and people like us, and it's very, again, heartbreaking to realize what the last 4 years again have been showing us much more clearly.
How easy it is.
That for many people, it's always there, latent or hidden or suppressed or
just waiting to be unleashed,
or just shamed into a corner. But actually, it's
waiting to be unleashed and given permission to be.
Yeah,
bad.
And of course, this movie, being the superhero movie that it is, ends on
someone
a happier note.
And someone has to. I mean, the action sequences were amazing.
I wish it were as easy to fix everything here too.
I loved when she flew.
Yes. And I want to say also about Gal.
Gal.
Because, again, Manola specifically, we didn't read any other reviews.
She talked about her range of about 3
which
notes.
is about A to B, as
Catherine said about Dorothy Parker
said about Katharine Hepburn. I personally, listen, she's not the best actress I've ever seen, but I think that she was cast specifically because she has this coolness about her, and at the same time a warmth to her that makes...
and an innocence. There's an innocence about her, and she did not lose it in this film.
No,
she maintains that wonder and that goodness.
You believe her.
Yes.
And that's why even the things that could look silly, she sells them.
Sincere.
Yeah, she is. She's very sincere. So I really appreciate that. And because we're way over the time, I just want to mention, I loved seeing Linda Carter as the major matriarch.
I just wish that they would have done it a little earlier in the credits.
I know.
Because,
but
as those of you who may have seen Sharp Objects, the actual truth of the whole show was revealed.
Well, thankfully, this wasn't buried.
A minute or more into the credits.
This wasn't buried as deeply in the credits, but I really
and it
wish...
also wasn't the whole story about the whole
ending. I wish though that they had done it a little bit earlier, because I don't know how many people are going to miss it, but not if you're listening to our podcast, you will not be missing it. I shrieked. I was so excited. First of all, I love that they gave her.
Carter.
First of all, I love Linda Carter, and she will always be my Wonder Woman. But also, I love when they do cameos and nods to people who are originals, and I love the idea that she was the matriarch,
the goddess,
that they all sacrificed in order to lift up, and I loved it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Don't let anybody rain on your Wonder Woman parade.
Film. I really
Patty
loved
Jenkins,
it.
brava.
Patty, yes.
It's a very complex film to direct, and it was fantastic.
Oh, my God. Those action sequences, my God.
Yeah, it was
unbelievable.
great.
That chase scene on
and also the scope of the film is huge.
The road in the desert. Oh,
I love that
God.
one. Anyway, we really loved it. We hope you did too. And if you have anything you'd like to tell us about your experience watching this movie or anything else, ladypartstv@gmail.com. And with that, thank you for joining us again. Bye.